KSYM, you're listening to the Third Coast Music Network. Having a little music geek moment here. It's not very often you get to play two albums that have sequential catalog numbers on here. Both releases off Garhole Records. That is Garhole 17 right there, which is Bonnie Montgomery's new album River. And before that, Nick Shoulders, her label mate, with one from his new album Arkansas Troubler, All Bad, Garhole Records 16. So I mentioned a little bit earlier we have Bonnie Montgomery in the studio. Bonnie, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And speaking of Arkansas and that track, I was trying to pinpoint where a bunch of things online said Arkansas/Wimberley/Austin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you claim one of those more than the other, or?
I think they're all kind of the same as far as what. Okay, microphone. Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I'm bouncing back and forth between those still.
Yeah.
I'm from Arkansas, born and raised there, but spent a lot of time in Wimberley and a lot of time in Austin. So it's, okay. I'm a nomad.
So it's pretty fluid between all three of those. That's pretty cool. But yeah, speaking of that album, River, that came out yesterday.
Yes, it did.
So congrats on that, and
Thank you.
Getting on the ball right now. Touring first show of this album release tour tonight in San Antonio at the Lonesome Rose.
Yep.
Playing later. So you are, if you're in the area and you're hearing this, you are getting things right as they are out the gate here as far as this release. So yeah, River came out yesterday. I think I was going to ask you about kind of Arkansas. You mentioned it. There's definitely that connection I mentioned with Garhole Records, which is an Arkansas label. Man, there has kind of been an explosion in that area, like musically, I would say, like with like Willie Carlisle and Nick Shoulders, who I mentioned earlier. What's kind of the scene like up there in Arkansas?
It is really cool. It's thriving, I think. Garhole has been really good to kind of centralize all of us and bring us together. Yeah, it's very interesting because, being from Arkansas, and I'm actually from an area that's more like in the delta of Arkansas. So when I'm up in Fayetteville, it feels really different because of a lot of reasons. But yeah, I think the scene is like kind of finally getting more traction and a little more elevated, I think it was like not cool for a long time to say you were from Arkansas. I still don't think you get that reaction. But like when I was in Nashville for Americana last year, I would get in a cab or something and say I'm from Arkansas, and they'd say that's so cool, and I was like, what?
Well, and you might have seen this spending time in Austin and 35 and stuff. They had billboards for a while back advertising Northwest Arkansas.
Yes.
So is it as cool as advertised? Because I kept driving by those, and I was like, wow, they're really pushing the Northwest Arkansas. They were like, you can ride your bike all the time and do that. So would you say that's warranted? I
think my kind of cool may not be that same Walton brand kind of cool.
Oh, Walton brand.
But, I'm all for mountain biking and the economy growing in my home state and all of that, but very interesting things happening because it's the Ozarks up there in Fayetteville. So the the Walton Foundation is renaming it Oz, like Ozarks shortened.
Okay, I thought there was some sort of Wizard of Oz tie-in, I guess.
So there's a lot of interesting things happening up there, and the beautiful art scene, like internationally renowned art scene with the Crystal Bridges Museum, and so it's some interesting developments that are happening in my home state that are like, whoa. So but my idea of cool is more like a dive bar that's not funded by billionaires.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty good transition because I had on my notes here that the music video for that track you did, Modern Day Cowgirl's Dream, was filmed at kind of a cool venue up there, that Whitewater Tavern.
Yes.
So it looked like a pretty fun video. Is there, and that kind of track specifically, it references a lot of like dancing in Austin and Houston. Is there a kind of a big two-step scene at Whitewater?
Whitewater has a good two-step scene, but there's nothing that compares to Texas. I mean, I think we're playing in Houston on Friday night, and we've got a 3-hour set, and it's just basically for the dancers. And you don't really see that in any place other than Texas that I know of.
Yeah.
So it's everywhere, but there's no place like, the Lone Star State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, that's 3-hour dancing shows. What is that?
I don't know that yet.
Somebody mentioning that somebody had quoted me once about having a 4-hour gig at Broken Spoke, and they played it, and afterwards it was like that was like being sent to a honky tonk gulag. Like just
gulag.
Just like you're condemned to a 4-hour show. But I definitely frequently go out to those things. Maybe not stay that long, but they're a good time, and kind of good vibes. Well, you brought a guitar with you and got a new album. Is there something you want to play for us?
Yeah, I think I'd like to play a song on the album called Leon.
Okay.
I wrote it when I was living in Wimberley, and then, I had some fun with this one in the studio. It's kind of a cosmic country song. Think I saw Leon. He was walking down the road where the river meets the sunset, holding his hat and moving slow, holding his hat and moving slow. Well, I'm not from this county, I'm not from this town, but the weather here takes me somewhere that's lost and gone, somewhere from a lifetime ago. Well, last night down in Laredo, a cowboy took my hand and he twirled me upon that dance floor. He said, honey, just close your eyes. He said, honey, just close your eyes. I think I saw Leon like an angel just flying down.
KSYM, you're listening to the Third Coast Music Network. Bonnie Montgomery live in the studio doing Leon from her new album River. She's in town tonight playing the very first album release show from the record River, as I mentioned, down at the Lonesome Rose. So she's hanging out with us for a bit, talking about making music and stuff. We kind of talked about Arkansas a bit, but we'll change states here and mention Texas, where this new album was recorded in Dayton, which is outside of Houston, correct?
That's right.
With Kevin Scarla.
Yeah.
And I was gonna let our listeners know, if you happened to be at the Summer Dean show last weekend when she was in town, Kevin Scarla was pulling double duty on B-bender guitar and pedal steel.
Yes.
And then I was looking at the credits. He played pretty much everything on this CD.
Yeah, Kevin is a savant. Kevin from heaven. He plays everything. In fact, tonight at Lonesome Rose, he'll be playing bass. So we had some mix-ups with the band. But that's just how brilliant Kevin is. He can just be wherever we need him to be. But he started out as my steel player on the road. We put a lot of miles on the road, and he played on my record Forever that we recorded in like 2017 in Austin. And he's a musical genius, clearly. So he built this studio in Dayton, where he's from. And it was during the pandemic, so we were trying not to gather. And so, I would push the button sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah, I did a little bit of engineering. He just showed me what to do.
Yeah.
But he would lay down the drums and the bass, and then I would add guitar, piano, vocal, And then I'd go back to Wimberley, and he'd just, jam and send me stuff and be like, what do you think about this, that? So he did it all.
Yeah. Well, I like how a lot of the notes on this say sod farm and barn, but if you listen to it, it's very lush and very almost Nashvilleian. There's strings and a lot of in-depth background vocals and stuff. So it's amazing what you guys did to make a record sound like that when the descriptors are barn and sod farm. So
I know he made it. Every square inch is just so meticulously beautiful, and lots of vintage equipment in there. A grand piano, and then my friend Jeffrey Robson. He is the violinist on the record. He's also now the new musical director of the Arkansas Symphony.
Oh, cool.
I'm so proud of Jeff. We've been playing together for a long time, and what he would do is just layer and layer. That's why the strings sound so lush, because sometimes he would layer 16, sometimes like 32 parts. And we would do this technique in the studio where he would move chairs. So we would have the mic in the same place, but he would move to a different position in the studio with every part he was playing, so it actually sounds like a whole orchestra is there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, kind of like one at a time kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's pretty meticulous for sure.
It was beautiful.
And I was going to ask about that. Now, with just kind of a skeleton crew of you guys and maybe a couple other people, was that a faster recording process, or did you find it took a longer time than past records?
I think it took a longer time because, like my other records, we've cut a lot in the room together, which is just and so fast.
Yeah.
So it probably took more time. We also took time to just kind of, really experiment and try things and scrap things, because it was in the pandemic. We didn't have gigs and no schedule, and we were so lost in a way. So the album really anchored me. It helped me find my voice during that time when I wasn't really singing out, and
Yeah, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but Whitney Rose guest vocalist on that track. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love singing with Whitney. We sang together on Summer Dean's album.
Okay.
We did backup.
The one before the last one.
The one
I think
with
the Bad Romantic.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we had a blast. We felt like we were like, we should do this full time. We had so much fun singing together like that. So I knew that she'd be great for anything that came up for this, but she did have to do it remotely during the pandemic. She did it in Austin, and we sent it over to Kevin.
Yeah, well, that's the magic of even in the sod farm barn. You can send a Pro Tools track. That's the great thing about the modern century.
It's true. Even on a sod farm.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, Bonnie, you want to play us another track here?
Oh, sure. While we're talking about that one, I'll play Modern Day Cowgirl's Dream.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious to hear, because I listened to the track in the album before I kind of read anything about it, just to kind of come in and kind of make my own thoughts. And I was like, I thought you mentioned staying at Whitney Rose's house. You said Miss Rose's, and I was like, oh, Rose Austin, that's got to be Whitney Rose.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of curious if you would disclose what bar you were at in Houston, because I know there's a couple cool ones now. But
oh, yeah. Well, we used to play this place called Goodnight Charlie's.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. With Chris Seymour, is that the guy that books there? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. They had to. They're not still in existence since the pandemic, which is a shame. But we were playing there a lot during that time, and talk about those long dance sets. It was like three hours, and everybody be dancing. And so, I had some eventful nights there.
Yeah. Oh, man. Cool. Well, yeah, we'll let you play this one. I'm going to do a legal thing real quick, tell you you're listening to KSYM Radio in San Antonio. Bonnie Montgomery is going to play the track from her album Modern Day Cowgirl's Dream. Take away, Bonnie.
Thank you. I went down to Houston, we were putting on a show. After the loadout, I was standing in the road, like a vision, all dressed in gold. Then I danced with the ranch hand who was holding me so strong, twirled me on the dance floor, and he took me to another world, to another world. That cowboy took me to another world. Well, I've been all over Texas, all over the world. Never thought I'd see a brand new universe down there in Houston. Yeah, like a vision in this modern day cowgirl's dream. Well, just a few days later, I was back in Austin town, and the sun, it was shining like neon on the ground, all over the ground, in the places that I finally found. And then I stayed on the south side of the Lonesome Rose, woke up in the morning to my fingers and my toes, I was feeling like that Texas yellow rose. Well, now I've crossed all over Black County, been all over the world. I never thought I'd see a brand new universe at Mrs. Rose. Well, it's all part of this modern day cowgirl's dream. Yeah, like a vision of this modern day cowgirl's dream. Yeah, like a vision in this modern day cowgirl's dream.
KSYM San Antonio, Bonnie Montgomery live in the studio, modern day Cowgirl's Dream, from her new album River, off of Garhole Records. Bonnie, thanks again for coming in here.
Thank you.
So I wanted to talk about this a little bit. So you are award-winning 2020 Arkansas Country Music Entertainer of the Year and Ameripolitan Outlaw winner, but you probably have a pretty prestigious background for both of those awards. You're an opera singer.
Yes, I am.
Now, how long, like, how much of your life has you been dedicated to that? Because that's obviously a very, I mean, you know, those people train a lot and stuff like that. What's your story behind that?
Yeah, it is very, very competitive, strenuous. It's like training to be an Olympic athlete, except with your vocal cords. But I studied formally for 7 years, got a master's and everything. I was really passionate about it and going for it. And then life just kind of took me elsewhere. And I had been singing, since I was really little. And, it all just kind of happened organically because I got a scholarship for voice when I went to college, and I loved it. I just loved opera. It moved me. I would just feel so much emotion, and I loved the history of it, and got to travel around the world and sing opera. So yeah, but when I was done with the masters, I really missed home, and I really missed non-academic life. So I went back to my father's farm and helped him for the summer, and was like, I think I want to just sing country music again like I did when I was young. And so it's been interesting because I still have the training, but I'm singing in this different world.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it.
Yeah. And one of the things that definitely stood out was you have an opera called Billy Blythe, which is a folk opera. It says a modern folk opera about a young Bill Clinton. Yeah. That's pretty wild. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, I write a lot of classical stuff too, string quartet and little piano etudes and things like that. But the opera was its own animal. I had a vision that I couldn't stop seeing of this story of a young Bill Clinton, but on an operatic stage. And because the whole story already had all the elements. His life growing up was really tumultuous and so Southern, so Arkansas, that I wanted to capture that Arkansas feeling, the light and the humidity and like the mythological feeling of a story like Bill Clinton, because he came from nothing. But it's just a snapshot, a day in the life in 1959 of a 14-year-old Bill Clinton. It's not political. It's not about Lewinsky.
Yeah.
Everybody would ask me that.
Oh, yeah.
Or am I going to write the second part, which would be fun. But then when it'd be very fun because there's actually those transcripts of Lewinsky.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot of material to work with, huh?
Yeah. But so I wrote this crazy thing, and with my friend Brittany Barber, she's a poet, so she wrote the libretto, the lyrics, and then boom, it was crazy. I didn't have a publicist at the time or anything, but I was on MSNBC Live at 30 Rock. I was in the New Yorker. It was just everything happened all at once. I had some friends I'd gone to grad school with who had started a little renegade opera troupe in New York, so they premiered it. It was just a really fun time. So it's had a little rodeo out there, and it's been performed at colleges and stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask. I mean, that like I saw on the website there's some stills in that and stuff. Like, were you pretty involved? I mean, talking about making a record and helping, Kevin press buttons and stuff like that. Were you like involved with like some of the stage direction and like costuming and like all the stuff that goes into that, like pretty heavily?
Yeah, when we first did it, I didn't have a crew or anything, so I did it all. I had a director, but I was pulling costumes. I was helping with some of the stage direction. I was accompanying. I was singing. I was selling tickets. I did it all at first. And then as it went on, it's just been such a miracle and a beautiful thing to see it taken on by actual opera companies.
Wow.
Like Opera Ithaca did it in New York. My alma mater in Arkansas did a beautiful version of it. And it's just so cool to see like an actual whole team take it and do their interpretation of it. That's a really cool thing.
Now what's I guess, is it pretty equal making a record and making an opera, or is one a little bit more difficult than the other?
Oh, man, that's an interesting question. I think they're probably like kind of the same. It's like the same animal for me.
Yeah.
Just different ways of, cooking in the kitchen or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you write, is there do you have a mental thing like, oh, this is going to be more operatic and classical, or this is going to be more country, or do you kind of have to write whatever comes out and it ends up whatever way, or you go into it kind of determining what it's going to be?
I think I get a lot of ideas that I know. I get a lot of ideas that are formed, and some of my songs come in just like fall out of the sky. It's really, really, it's a huge blessing. Same thing with classical ideas, and I'll hear it in the instruments that it's going to be in. But I can get in a mode with classical composition that's more intellectual, where I can make a schedule and sit down and do it. It's not always easier than, I don't know. It's it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me to this quote that I was kind of in your write-up, and said, opera and country have a lot in common. And I was going to ask you, if you were a country fan, what opera would you recommend to somebody to get into opera, and kind of vice versa? What as an opera fan, what country, what's kind of the connecting
I love that
material?
Question. Thank you. I would say La Boheme. I know that's like the pop version of opera to a lot of people, but I love that opera. If you get a chance and you can see La Boheme by Puccini somewhere, if you just like country music or you've never been to an opera, just try it. I went to see that opera in New York, and I was in the standing section when I was younger, and I didn't have the money for a real seat. And this guy from New Jersey was standing next to me and said his mom made him come. He was like, oh, what am I doing at the opera? You know what? And then halfway through, this guy was crying, just tears, and just like glued to it, because it's just this human emotion thing. Same thing that's in country music, I think there is a lot of crossover. So if an opera fan asked me what they might like in country, I might say like Ray Price, something from his really early years, or of course Patsy Cline, Sweet Dreams. I mean, come on, that's so classical when I hear it.
Yeah, like the what's his face, Chet Atkins kind of
yes.
production, Nashville sound kind of stuff. Yeah, I can see
that
where
strings
Yeah.
in the beginning. Wow.
Yeah, I can see that. So
Uh-huh.
that's pretty cool right there. Yeah, kind of a cross musical genres that don't typically get blended. That's kind of
I
a
know
cool
it's
thing.
really different, but to me it's kind of all the same thing because it's that emotion,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I feel so much emotion when I hear like a Merle Haggard song that I heard growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And it just takes you back, you know, and it's so beautiful and it's so complicated. Country music is very complicated, but the simplicity of it to me is so nuanced that that's part of the complication. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I could talk about that all day,
Yeah,
clearly.
it's a good topic. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to play one more for us live before we
another
let you out of
one?
here? I mean, it's up to you.
What do
We
you
have the
think?
CD queued up too. I just was gonna extend the offer if you wanted to play two or three.
Yeah, I could play Half Drunk.
Okay.
Half Drunk, Half Stoned.
Okay.
Half drunk, half stoned, and living alone in a land of 10,000 goodbyes. Half down, half up, please pass me the butt of a victim too scared to sing high. But necessity came crawling on me to play well the part of soprano in the opera. Life is hard. I guess you know I wouldn't trade you for peace or war, but just lay low, boy. The tide's sure to turn. Half baked, half fried, and looking at these bloodshot eyes in the looking glass of yours. Half blown, half broke, please send them a message from this boat and tell them that I tried. Take care, so long and good night. Don't lean on the lamppost of China in the summertime. Take your lover's bow and tell him how your father spent time herding cows and keep composure. The farm's doing fine. So jump overboard and send the word to take care in the afterworld. She's still afloat, boys, so keep your head up high. Ooh.
KSYM, Bonnie Montgomery here on the Third Coast Music Network, playing Half Drunk live in the studio from her new album River, out on Garhole Records. Just came out yesterday, and she's in town playing her first of her album release shows at the Lonesome Rose. Bonnie, what are the details about that? What's the times and stuff for the people out there?
We don't start till 11:30, y'all.
Okay.
So take a disco nap, take some coffee with you. The Croy and the boys play before us at 9:30, and we will have the new record on hand. This is the first time we'll have it. We got black vinyl, colored vinyl,
Oh, wow.
cassette tape. Oh my God, I'm so excited about the cassette tape and CDs and a new sticker. Anyway, we'll have all of that. Have to plug all of that
Yeah.
because, you know, we got to pay to put gas in our tanks. So anyway, we'll be there. We will be rocking and rolling, hitting it hard.
Full band?
Full band, yeah. And I got Zach Annette here from Tulsa with me, who just got in town. So he's playing drums.
Oh, nice.
And Kevin Skurla on bass tonight.
Okay.
And Matt Ford, who's played with me for years, and he's out of Austin. He's going to be playing guitar. So,
Awesome.
yeah,
That'll be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Sweet.
it will.
Well, I guess let you guys get going and packing up, but before we have you leave, where can folks find you on the interwebs and stuff like that?
Oh, I'm on all the social medias. It's just Bonnie Montgomery on Instagram and Facebook, and my website is bonniemontgomerymusic.com. All the records are for sale at garholerecords.com. So
Cool.
I think that's everybody.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, if you can check all that out. We'll be playing it here on the Third Coast, so
Cool.
look for it
Thank
in
you.
rotation here on the air on the Third Coast Network. So we'll play you out here with another track off River. This one's called "I Was Fine." I think we talked about this one being one that you liked, and I definitely like this one a lot too.
Cool.
From the listen through, do you have any kind of lead in for this one before we play it?
Oh, I'd love to talk about this one because Kevin and I love Ray Price. So this was like sort of a tribute to Ray Price. And Ray Price has a song called Gonna Burn Some Bridges that I love. Love that song. And it has this amazing, iconic steel riff. And Kevin was messing around with this one, and I was like, man, that sounds just like Ray Price, Gonna Burn Some Bridges. And we realized it was so similar. So if you put those two tracks together, you'll hear it. And I just tried to sing it and embody Ray Price in the way that I sang. And then we had Jeff doing the musical chairs with all of the flourishes. So, this
cool.
one's our tribute to Ray Price.
Awesome. Well, always good to have a tribute to him. Okay, well, thank you so much, Bonnie.
Thank you.
We're going to play I Was Fine from her new record, River, right here on the Third Coast Music Network, only on KSYM.